Welcome to Circular Firing Squad. I'm Marty Jencius, a counselor faculty at Kent State University and host of CFS. Let me explain the Circular Firing Squad concept. We have squad members who've submitted a question. We invite them on the podcast to get their question answered and answer questions from other squad members. Everyone gets 1 minute to answer each question. Many of us come from a counseling faculty or practicing counseling background, so a lot of the questions bend in that direction. So let's go ahead and make introductions. Eric?
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Eric Perry. I'm a clinical faculty member at Southern New Hampshire University and also a social media coordinator and webmaster for ACES. Happy to be here and excited to get started.
Hey everyone, I'm Jenn Cook, assistant professor at Marquette University in Milwaukee.
Hello everybody, I'm Elliott Ingersoll, professor and chair of counseling at Cleveland State University and co-host of Apply Topically.
Hello, I am Stephanie Marder. I am a doctoral candidate at Kent State University and practicing counselor at a private practice and co-host of Grad School Deconstructed.
Hi everyone, my name is Gina Martin. I am a doctoral candidate at the University of Iowa, and I'm also an adjunct instructor at Northwestern University.
So Eric, you're up with the first question for tonight.
Great. So my question has a short story behind it, I guess. I was recording a couple of demo videos for my students and elicited feedback, as I usually do. And it was interesting. One of the responses that I got was, "Oh, so you're a confrontational counselor." And it was kind of a disappointed kind of feedback, almost as if like it was a bit shameful to not be this epitome of Carl Rogers. And it got me thinking a lot about style and approach to counseling and instruction. And I've always kind of sat somewhere between active directive and, that kind of Adlerian approach. And it's been interesting how I've developed over time. And it just got me thinking about the ways in which I approach things and have a tendency to want to really, once that relationship is established with my clients or even my students, really wanting to hold things out for them to see. And it's often how I view the counseling relationship and the process that we go through is part of my job is to let my clients and my students know when these conflicts are there and what they are. And I don't feel like it's confrontational as in, I disagree with you or here's what I think is wrong or, this kind of diagnostic medical model. I have the, mental health blood test results for you kind of confrontation. But at the same time, I think it's really important to be able to notice when these things conflict and really bring them out. So, I wanted to start off with just asking the squad here, how you describe your style and your approach to counseling and instruction. And that's really where I sit with mine and where I feel like I'm most at home. The other part that I feel like is really important to me is that genuineness piece. If I don't feel like myself in it, I feel like I'm doing it wrong. So I've tried like these techniques and these really cool things and I'm really open to new ideas, but at the same time, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't feel me, I feel like my clients and even my students are going to know, that this is not genuine. And I think that to me is the most important. So yeah, I may come off a little bit confrontational, I think. I may be more apt to throw something out there as a contradiction that I see or really wanting to dive into that space maybe a little bit more readily than someone else. So I'm interested to hear the squad's responses because it's something that's fresh in my mind, I guess. So Jen, you're next up. I'm interested to hear your response.
I would say that I think there might be a generational difference of what confrontational means because I sometimes hear students who are, 10 to 20 years younger than I am, speak about something that's confrontational when I'm simply thinking about it in terms of being a discrepancy or being a contradiction, something that is incongruent with what the client has said over time. And because I was trained as a couple and family counselor in my initial training, I think that that piece of speaking to discrepancy is a very big piece of my counselor identity, even though I primarily identify with culturally affirmative practices and person-centered, because I think that those meld together really nicely. But I'm also a student of structural family therapy and have absolutely no problem, a la Mnuchin, just calling a spade a spade. So I would say that those are three that are really influential, in addition to narrative therapy. And so I think I integrate those pretty strongly together, mostly in my work with students now, because I'm not working with clients currently. But yeah, I think we might have a definitional issue of what confrontation is, compared to what might be pointing to discrepancy as we talk about in motivational interviewing. So Elliott, confrontational, discrepant, who are you?
Yeah, I don't think confrontational has come up in counseling or instruction too much. Comes up in the university administration a lot, but I think that's par for the course. That's just kind of the turf there. But I agree with Jen that I think there are generational variables, and I always thought of a confrontation as, on the one hand, you say this, on the other hand, you're doing this, which pretty much precludes what you were aiming for. But if something emerges in my awareness like 3 times, I feel compelled to bring it up to the client. The first time it might just be noise in my brain. The second time I'm a little more, and then the third time I'm like, I need to address this. But I would say I aim for feminist and existentialist approaches in the work itself. But we had a wonderful exercise where 5 of us, faculty members at Cleveland State, we did role plays demonstrating 3 counseling approaches. And what was fun was that you would see 3 of us doing Carl Rogers' approach, but we did it as ourselves. And then we talk a lot about self as instrument. And I thought that was liberating for some of the students to see that, oh yeah, I'm going to, it's like I would play a song by John Coltrane, but I'm going to interpret it the way that I wish to. That's my take on it. Stephanie, how about you?
Well, I think you bring up an interesting point, where we talk about how students think maybe at first that there's one right way to carry out a theory or an approach with clients. And it's like, no, it's going to look different for each and every one of you. So, and I think that also goes back to Eric's point too, of that genuineness, and just, you have to be yourself too, or else the clients are going to know. I tend to go towards a more reality choice kind of approach with existential in there. And I tend to, it's just kind of like, I like to tell clients, there's no possibility of you getting exactly what you want and everyone else being thrilled with it in every way, shape, or form. So there's going to be some give and take on each side. So what are your choices and what is in keeping with your goals? And that's kind of where I like to sit with clients. I think that's kind of where my approach goes. How about you, Marty?
Well, actually, Steph, you would probably be a better person to answer this question for me than I am, because you have been a student of mine and also sat on the teaching side with me. So, but I resonate with what Elliott spoke about in terms of self as instrument. And I think for me, the self as instrument developed over, the years of practice and also the years of teaching. My style of counseling really, at this point, I feel it differs only from my style of teaching in the amount that I talk. And I talk much more in teaching than I do in counseling. And I think I originated with more, picking up what I was learning at the time. So a lot of psychodynamic, then a lot of cognitive, REBT. And I've moved and was most influenced by family therapy work and moved more into symbolic experiential ways of seeing the world and seeing clients and seeing students. My classes moved from a lot of sage on the stage to more experiential work and experiential things in the classroom as it would if I was working with families or working with clients. One of the rules of thumb that I have that carries over for both of those environments is that I try to make my clients and my students work harder than I do. It keeps me sane. And there were times when I was practicing where I really felt I was at the end of my rope and realized that I was, and in teaching, and I realized it's because I was working harder at it than the clients or the students. So Gina, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I love this question. I think that this is such a fascinating conversation to have and something that I've really appreciated hearing from all of you on. As I've gone through this and as I've come to know my counselor identity and who I am as a counselor and how I can be consistent and authentic with myself and in practice. So I am not a confrontational person, but I am a confrontational counselor. And I think a lot of that comes from the population that I work with. So I primarily work with children and adolescents who have experienced trauma. And when you're working with the adolescent population, I think those incongruences that you all talked about really come up to the forefront of the work that you're doing. I value this, but I'm doing this. I want to do this. I want to achieve this, but I'm doing this. So pointing out some of those incongruences, I think, are really authentic. It's really real to have some of those conversations. And a lot of times I've found that that's the corrective emotional experience that I'm having with this client because I'm the only person in their life that's able to say, hey, in a gentle way, you mentioned this, right? This is something that you want to do, yet you're doing this. And I'm not seeing where those line up. Help me understand. And a lot of students that I teach now don't think that that's confrontation. So I think, Jen, when you brought up that point about there's a generational difference, I think there's absolutely a difference there. And I've seen that come up all the time. That being said, my counseling theory that I operate the most out of, and I know this might be a little bit taboo, but I love psychodynamic theory. And I try to practice out of psychodynamic theory as much as I possibly can. That's the lens that I view clients through all the time, because I think that that's that's something that's it shows a lot to give that background, to understand why things are the way that they are. And I think it's really validating to kind of go through that. And a lot of my work now, a lot of my research is with neuroscience and with understanding emotional regulation. And I think if we can see the dysregulation that's happening and understand why it's happening, we have a much better chance of sorting that out than we do if we just charge forward and say it's going to be okay, because that's inauthentic and that's also invalidating. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Jen with our next question.
Thanks, Gina. So a little preface to this question. I think we talked in earlier shows about the power of music, our interests in music, some of those types of things. And I believe that I shared that I have a pretty long-standing relationship with music through performance, through just loving being with music. And one of the more foundational television shows I watched in the 90s, and just forgive me, y'all, and make fun of me. It's okay. But one of those shows was Ally McBeal. And in Ally McBeal, Tracy Ullman plays her therapist in a few of the seasons. And she encourages Ally to get a theme song. And for whatever reason, this really stuck with me. And I've always had these running theme songs in my life, either for my personal life, motivation, sometimes of being able to express particular emotions, a la being in therapy at different times. And as I was in my doctoral program and then into my professional career, finding real solace in having something that motivates me when I'm not feeling so motivated or trying to stay on track. So my question for y'all tonight is, what would you choose as your personal or professional theme song? Or it could be your personal / professional theme song. What is that for you right now? And I'm going to go a little corny here. And I don't know if you all know this song. It is by a 90s hip hop artist. I'm staying with the 90s genre tonight, apparently. Skee-Lo. Again, here's where the laughing can come in. Put in the laugh track. And his one of his one-hit wonders was this song called I Wish. And the whole song is about wishing for things that are not pretty much possible. There's these little glimmers of hope in there of things that are legit for him, but most of them are just things that he really wants, that he thinks are going to make his life better. And I have to say that's been resonating with me over the last several months as we have been. I've even created a Pandora station of Skee-Lo radio. Yeah, true confessions here. So, Elliott, theme song.
Well, when I read your question, I was coming off my 5th administrative Zoom call of the day, and the song that popped into my head was Mission Impossible, because that's how I feel. Every time I plug into a Zoom, a bump, 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 bump. It's just,
Yeah.
So it was either that or the Pretty Reckless Going to Hell. I probably toss up for me. Stephanie, how about you?
Oh, right. So it's kind of funny. So in the last month or so, there's this stump, and we cleared this whole bush in the back of our yard. And there we have this infestation of what's called Japanese rootweed, I think. It is impossible to get rid of. So we had to take like the Sawzall, cut everything down, use the flamethrower, burn it all, and then we doused it all with Roundup. And that's to control it. So in the following days, I mean, we decided we're going to pave it and make it a whole good area, but we got to get rid of these roots and these weeds. So I got a Pickmadix. Our neighbor lent one to me. And after a few days, I guess I worked it too hard and the head became wobbly, has to get repaired. But we got a different one, a brand new one, and it's awesome. So every day, though, I have to go out there for at least half hour, 45 minutes, and like just chop away and try to get the stump because it goes through all the dead wood. So when I'm out there, for whatever reason, Every Day by Buddy Holly keeps playing through my head. And I'm just out there slapping away and every day. So that's what keeps me moving and keeps me working. What about you, Marty?
This was a tough question for me. You know, I worked in radio for years, and, you know, I initially was drawn to Talking Heads, and I tried to find some song that I could do from Talking Heads, and it would be Life During Wartime or Animals, which I really like, but that really didn't fit like a sentiment for me in terms of what I could say. And I was thinking REM, that's another band that I really liked, and It's the End of the World as We Know It, but the lyrics don't make a lot of sense. I settled on an artist that my wife and I both love, Todd Rundgren, and a song called Just One Victory. And if you have ever heard it, it's a great song. But it's also something that he will do as an encore at the end of his shows. And it's a very uplifting song. The time has come to take the bull by the horns. We've been so downhearted. We've been so forlorn. We get weak and we want to give in, but we still need each other if we want to win. And you need to hear the song if you haven't heard it. It's really kind of a large, chorus song that's very uplifting. So Just One Victory by Todd Rundgren. Gina?
This is a great question too. I feel like you all have such good responses with adult music, but having a 2-year-old, today is her birthday. She's officially 2. I've been listening to a whole lot of Elsa, and Let It Go has been the theme song playing in my head. So I welcome the opportunity to listen to some other adult music later on, but Let It Go has been on repeat in my household for a long time. And then as soon as quarantine started, we had a new one come. Frozen 2 was released on Disney Plus, and that was a huge hit in our house. And the new theme song is Into the Unknown, which is very fitting with this time of so many things being so uncertain. So that's kind of, it goes back and forth between letting things go, whether that be the color of the sippy cup we're using, or into the unknown, whether that be quarantine and living life in this new age that we're in. So what about you, Eric?
I'm kind of in the same boat. We've moved on, thankfully, from Frozen. And we actually went back a little bit at the beginning of quarantine to a couple of songs that the kids really like. And they have a tendency to yell out to Alexa to play them at random times during the day, and then we start singing them. One is Night Begins to Shine by BER, which is a song from the Teen Titans Go, a cartoon show, right? And it's this like 80s kind of rock theme song, and they'll just scream it. And the other one is What Does the Fox Say, right? If anybody's ever heard that song, it now pops into my head at random times throughout the day. They're not necessarily theme songs for me, but they harken back to a couple of years ago when things felt normal, felt regular, and I think it comforts the kids too. And it's one of those things that we can do and laugh through. So when things start to get a little bit tense, I notice that that's their go-to, and now it's starting to be mine. So it's a lot of fun. But I check out BER. It's actually pretty entertaining. So our next question, I think, goes to Elliott.
I had a couple of really good books last week, and I started wondering what people were reading during quarantine that stood out for them. I read Max Brooks's new book, Devolution, and I won't give you a plot summary because there would be spoilers in it, but it was really good. It has to do with Bigfoot and Mount Rainier exploding, and very exciting. And then I read a book called The Female Gaze, Important Movies by Women. And, the male gaze was kind of a phrase coined by Laura Mulvaney about how patriarchy shapes all of our institutions, including film, and how women are seen and males are the, cisgender males are the seers, and so they've kind of flipped this around, and they found films from like the early 20th century that were just powerfully feminist films, and they kind of walk you through the plots and then how that inspired other filmmakers. So those were two that I just really enjoyed. Stephanie, how about you? Any good books?
I do have more time for more podcasts, but again, that kind of follows right now a lot of the trash TV that I find myself watching more of, being at home more. But I do download a lot of books. I download a lot of sci-fi or fantasy from Overdrive, using the Overdrive app. So from the library. So whatever Heinlein can find, or I don't even know. I kind of always look up on online whatever books lately. So listen to those. I still need to get through Neuromancer and have it make sense. So I revisit that one every so often and try to figure out what the heck's going on. So that's about it for me. What about you, Marty?
This was, again, a tough question for me. I guess my go-to for reading that's not academic is Harlan Ellison, who is a sci-fi author, and I think recently passed away in a year or so. I had a chance to meet him and have read his material, and he got me through high school, I think. A lot of his material speaks to alienation and the character. It's written from a character place. But what I have been into during this quarantine, because this was a question about quarantine, has been I've revisited, or I should say I actually have taken a look at Be Here Now by Ram Dass, which is an interesting book. Originally, Richard Alpert, who was a psychologist who, with Timothy Leary, did a lot of work together. And then Richard went off and studied Eastern religion and Eastern philosophy and renamed himself Ram Dass. Something that got me interested in Ram Dass, I had heard about him before this opportunity, but in my work, I had an opportunity to interview Al Peso, who is the sort of the developer of psychomotor psychotherapy, which was an approach that I was really excited about. And I went to visit him at his home, and he informed me, we spent time walking around the area. He said, "This is Ram Dass's old ashram." So I felt like I was walking on hallowed ground. He had bought it from him back in the day and did all his work out there. So Ram Dass. I'm also listening to Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, informal talks on Zen meditation and practice by Shunryu Suzuki. It's an audio book, and it's actually a book that was published 40 years ago. And it's a good introduction to Zen meditation and Zen mind. Gina.
I am an avid reader, so I love to read, and I have read very many books in my life, but during quarantine, I have had a few things stand out to me. So first and foremost, I'm going to be completely transparent. I am in the trenches of writing a dissertation, so most of my free moments are spent reading articles that relate to my dissertation topic and are directly related to my chapter 2. That being said, I snuck in one really good, just fun, relaxed novel, which was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And I thought that was just wonderful. It was so nice. And I read it in like 4 hours, and I just had a great time reading it. And I told myself that I would give myself one more fun book to read. And I chose to pick up the Oh Crap Potty Training book because we're approaching that deadline. And I will say, in all of the books in all of my life, I never have stopped reading a book. And that one I had to stop because I am so anxious for potty training my 2-year-old that I had to give that one up. And because I'm an avid reader and because I've never done that before, I really sunk my heart on that one. So I will hope to pick that one up again soon, but that's kind of where I'm at. How about you, Eric?
Gina, it's going to be okay, right? It'll get there.
There is a deadline on potty training. Nobody gave me that message.
There is. Yeah, if you want them to go to school, like there's places that, even daycares that won't take them until they're potty trained. And if there's proof otherwise, they'll send them back and let you know you got to get it done.
What's your book, Eric?
So my books are largely garbage. My stress response is to move into total just entertainment reading, and I do a lot of audiobooks. Right now, I'm working through the last of the Benedict Jocka series. It's Alex Vera's series. I really like urban fantasy, so I read or listen to a lot of that. Anything with Neil Gaiman, I worked through American Gods and Good Omens and just watched the Good Omens series. And I just finished up Max Tegmark's book. He's a professor, and it's called Life 3.0, and looks at where he kind of projects AI going over the next 100, 200, 1,000 years. He really kind of stretches that time frame. And it's all just hypothetical but really neat and really well played out. Really uses some fantastic historical context and clearly some artistic license to go through it. But I really, really enjoyed it. Oh, Jen, you didn't share yours yet. Go ahead.
Me. I'll be brief. I'm typically an avid reader. Gina, I was feeling you. Not with the potty training, but with typically I'm a really avid reader. Usually at least, a novel a week type reader. And I have to be honest, since COVID, I have not had the bandwidth. When I got back from spring break and finished the second novel that I had started on spring break, that's when it stopped. And I haven't had the concentration, to be completely frank. I have found solace in watching old TV shows. If it's in black and white, even better. Every night includes Dick Van Dyke and Perry Mason. And I think it's because that's the time period that I can handle right now, and that's the bandwidth that I have, to be completely frank. And this is one of the first times in my adult life that I've experienced that, and it's been really curious to me. I'm looking forward to finishing the grading for my courses, plural, and to start to read again, because I think the bandwidth will return once I'm not teaching like a mad person right now. I think now we are over to Stephanie for a brand spanking shiny new question.
So I was thinking about the way that we've all talked about all the ways that our life has changed recently, and was curious about what stayed the same. And I had to really think about this, actually. And one thing that has completely stayed the same in my life are our animals, their schedule, their habits, and it brings me a sense of normalcy to see that they are not affected one bit by anything that is going on outside in the world. And it's just life is normal here in the house. So that has stayed the same. Has anything stayed the same for you, Marty?
You mention animals, and it takes me back to the Talking Heads song, Animals, where they're laughing at us. They do whatever they want to do, and we get caught up in our difficult world. But for me, it's been morning coffee with Aileen. Even when Aileen was working at home, we would go downstairs. First person downstairs takes the dog out. Second person comes down, either feeds the dog or starts making coffee. And, we have a Keurig, so it's rather quick. And then we sit in our front room chairs and look at the paper, talk about our day. That has been a consistency that has carried over and really is important for us to have that kind of consistent ritual every morning. Gina?
That sounds like such a great way to start every day. For me, some things that have stayed the same, my work schedule has stayed pretty consistent. I know that's different than a lot of people. And I know that, being that so I adjunct online for Northwestern. So most of my classes have been unaltered and they've stayed completely the same, which has been nice. So that's been the same. My husband also works from home. So his life has also stayed pretty much the same. So our work schedules have been pretty much unaltered. The one thing that we've had to add to that is juggling the toddler with all of this, just adjusting for, daycares being closed, and our nanny was staying home for a while too. But that's been how things have been going for us. How about you, Eric? Has anything stayed the same?
Well, and I may have went a little cheesy, a little corny with my response, but it really is the truth. This question got me thinking quite a bit. And I started thinking about the things that we were doing and how we were going about things. And, this summer was supposed to be the summer of vacations and trips and visits and all, we had the whole thing packed. And, I start to look at things a little bit closer and realize that even though the things we're doing are changing, our goals are the same. The goals did not change. We wanted to be together, to enjoy each other's company, to have fun. Maybe we're staying home now and we're swimming in the blow-up pool in the backyard instead of in Florida, right? We're finding different ways to do things to get at the same goal. And I think that realization, even just through this question, was really helpful for me. Just in taking a look at how we kind of schedule our day to day and the types of things that we look to do together as a family. So yeah, I guess I went a little bit cornier with that one, but I think it was a really helpful kind of reflection for me. So I really appreciate the question. Jen, how about you?
It's funny you mentioned goals because I've noticed that some of my goals are coming to a close. And so it was a natural time already for change. So like you, I was having to consider like, how are things staying the same? And I appreciate the shout out to the pets. I think you all have seen one of my kittes come through here. And he is always a little attention monger, and it does not matter what time of the day or night, he needs to be on me, even though we don't have air conditioning and it's, we're getting to the 80s now up here in Milwaukee. He still needs to be on me. There's something about that consistency. We have the same conversation every day, me and the baby cat, about not scratching the rug in the kitchen. There's just something nice about knowing that every morning when I come out to make the coffee, she is going to knead on that rug and I'm going to tell her to stop. Because there is so much diversity in the day of what's going to hit you and what you are going to be able to accomplish and how you are going to accomplish it. So, while also having this moment of noticing that there's new goals and priorities. My values have stayed consistent, but there are new goals and priorities that are arising. So, stay tuned, more to come with that, but I'll go over and turn it over to Elliott.
This was a good question because I had not too many things have really stayed the same. And what came up as I was thinking about it was I have exercise routines because I have a lot of spine injuries and knee injuries, and I've kind of got to do them. I'm almost afraid to not do them because then everything will lock up and, but now my partner and my kids are using all the exercise stuff in the basement. So I'll go down and I'll be like, oh, excuse me. Okay. Well, I'll come back in an hour, and then I'll come back and someone else is down there and everyone's got their own music. We don't like each other's music. So it's like, well, I don't know if I really want to work out to rap right now. That's my daughter. I'm like, oh, I'll come back, and then, so it stayed the same, but it's actually been very different in that sense. So I think we are up for a new question from Marty.
Yeah, my question is I've been thinking about courses. Courses have changed for all of us, having to put them online and how they are. And I was just curious about, what's your favorite course to teach and why? And that's changed for me over the years. Sometimes it was courses that nobody else wanted to teach, and I would have the opportunity to kind of make them special or show people that they can be engaging courses despite that you didn't want to teach them or take them. Right now, it's kind of a toss-up between group work and family therapy. About group work, I've had some engagement in that over the years. I love it. And what I love about it is seeing the way I teach it, seeing students in their groups actually get the experience of having a group, which many of them have never had before, and also struggling with all the stages of group. But I'll tell you, it's something Elliott said too about family therapy, or about being able to demonstrate different styles. Stefco taught this course with me, and we would do different family theorists every week, and students would create their families, and I would have to sit in the moment with that family trying to demonstrate portions of what that technique looks like. And that experience was so raw for me to have to do that, being teaching it, trying to experience it, and trying to represent it at the same time, was just got all my neurons firing. So it still is family. Every week I walk in, when I teach family, I don't know what I'm going to experience or what magic is going to come out as a part of that. Gina, it's to you.
I love this question. So teaching is one of my main areas of passion and something that I really, really love. And I've taught a number of different courses over the past few years. And one that I've consistently taught is probably my favorite. Although it's hard to make a call on the favorite class, but I think this one has a very special place in my heart. So at Northwestern, we have a bridge series, which is 3 courses wrapped up into one. And it's the Intro to Clinical Interviewing, Intro to Clinical Practice, and Current Topics in Counseling. and it's for all of our career changers. So this was a class that I took when I was doing my master's at Northwestern as well. Prior to this, I worked in statistics and I have an English degree. So I have had a different career before this, not for very long, but I still had that experience of going into something different and then transitioning into counseling without having a background in psychology or anything related. And it was such a great experience when I took the class, but it's 1,000 times better teaching the class to see people start to understand what counseling is and what it looks like, and to just even have the conversation around what is a counselor identity. I love talking about that, and I love seeing how everybody's different experiences really contribute to who they are as a clinician. And I think that really ties to our first question tonight with how do we remain authentic? How can we be genuine? And I think that I call it genuinity, which is not a word. I think the proper word is genuineness or something like that, but genuinity sounds more right to me. And that's something that I talk about with my students all the time, is how can we remain genuine to who we are as individuals? You know, you've had, some students have had a lifetime of a career in another field, be that accounting, be that the medical profession or whatever. And how can we translate that into counseling, and how can we make all that be present in the room with us in a way that's not imposing or not, overbearing. But all of that stuff stays with us. So that's been my favorite class to teach, for sure. Eric, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I honestly, I've found myself over the last couple of years getting really, I don't know, if crotchety, I guess, about it, would be my grandpa's word for it. Just, I find I teach better, the courses better, the ones that I fit with, that I like, that I find myself passionate and interested with. I love research. I love career, don't make fun. It's one of my favorite courses to teach. But really, if I had a choice, I would teach our first techniques course every term. And, I always get a hard time from some of the other faculty. They're like, oh, you don't want to teach the later skills courses. And they're you get to do all these advanced techniques and that's cool. And I can hang, right? But there's those aha moments, those things that happen in that first techniques course, the type of self-exploration that occurs, the themes that come out, it's an amazing experience every single time, right, for me. And I end up leaving feeling so honored, having been a part of the student's journey at that point in time, that I realize a lot of it is self-serving, because it makes me feel great coming out of the course to be a part of that. So I tend to jump in for that wherever I can. And it's so much less about the development of those techniques, because they'll come through the successive courses. It can be a decision point for students, but it's also at the same time just this really crucial period of development that I think, again, has so many moments in it that can be appreciated and I really enjoy. What about you, Jen?
So I just finished teaching addictions for the 800th time, and I was reflecting back to when I taught it last summer. And I remember on the first day I stood up in front of the class, as I always do, to give a little introduction to the course. And I said, I absolutely love teaching this course. And one of the students automatically throws her hand into the air, and I haven't said anything yet. She said, Dr. Cook, you say that in the beginning of every class. And I started to laugh, and I think it's absolutely true. I love to teach. I love the courses I've had to teach and the ones that I've gotten to select to teach over the past 10 years. It's been an honor. Being a TA was an honor. Being a co-teacher was an honor, because I get to figure out how to make things click for other people. But like people are talking about earlier, Gina and Eric, I teach intro courses, Intro to the Profession and Intro to Micro Skills, which we use the exploration, insight, and action model. So it's all exploration during that first semester. And I get to do supervision. I get to do supervision of supervision. I get to teach them skills. I get to demonstrate them and sit with them while they fight to ask an open question and to use silence and to culturally broach. There's nothing better in the world than to watch their minds work on their faces before they know how to stop their faces from doing those things that we are going to train out of them in the next 10 minutes. So I have to say, even though I always say that I love teaching X class, Y class, whatever it is, intro to counseling is my absolute favorite. Elliott?
I'm resonating with a lot of what everyone's saying. I'm thinking of Marty's point about how this has changed for me. When I started, I think the counseling and spirituality elective that I developed was like I just loved it, and it was so important. And then I got into the psychopharmacology course because I had the requisite coursework, and the person who taught it was retiring, and I was new, and they're like, "We need you to do this." I was like, "Okay, you know." But what I love about psychopharm is the ability to teach it from an integrative social justice perspective. And I love just going through the intro part of the course. So many people really don't know that we don't know when the meds work, why they work. We know so little. And kind of then opening that up, and the dialogues then around social justice, who gets the good drugs, who gets the shite drugs, why are foster kids on 3 times as many drugs as other kids, and really working those ideas with the group is so rewarding. And you know, I've done a textbook, I've done a TEDx talk, I've done articles, and you know, people say, well, where do you think you've made an impact? And it's just with my students, because lay people have really gotten in my grill about this when they're like, no, I've got a chemical imbalance, you should do your homework. And I'm like, well, I kind of have, and I really looked that up for about 10 years, and there is no such thing. And you know, it's been such a wild ride. So that one, it was like I kind of got assigned it as a junior faculty, and I fell in love with it when I found a way to do it that I think brought out multiple voices and perspectives. Stephanie, how about you?
Well, my initial reflexive answer, just bam, was my favorite course to teach in counseling is any course where I'm going to be instructor of record. I'm just itching for that opportunity. But I know Jen was talking about, you know, being honored to have all of these other experiences. And I know that that's been the real truth for me as far as all of my co-teaching experiences, of which I've had multiple and different relationships, different experiences, because different instructors and working with them. And I've worked with Marty several times in several different courses. And he kind of stole my answer too, where that family course. So I took it as a doc student. And then I had that opportunity to co-teach it. And first, I think it was my favorite because I got to be on both sides of it, just semester to semester, back to back, or year, you know, fall semester or spring semester to spring semester. So it was right there and fresh in my mind, and getting that opportunity to sit in that and sit and be part of a family and work through that. And then also, like Marty was saying, trying to be the therapist or have them be that theory, whatever we're working on that week, was really challenging. And at the same time, something else I really enjoyed about co-teaching that course was we were reading The Family Crucible, and I got to kind of lead those discussions every week. And that's a book that challenges students, I think, in a lot of ways, and brings up ideas they're not comfortable with and things they think they would never say in session or you would never do, and at least puts it out there. And it's really fun to ask them questions about what they were reading and get their opinions on that, and have them kind of think about things differently in that counseling experience differently. And that brings us to the next question with Gina.
Yes. So my question has to do with this current time that we're in. So, what is your favorite summer activity, and have you gotten to do it with the COVID pandemic? I think that this question was on my mind as I was planning my birthday party for my little one, which her birthday's today, like I mentioned. So we scheduled a drive-by party for yesterday. And I will say, so it was so laid back, but it brought up a whole lot of stuff with the whole family beforehand. So I live in Iowa now, but I'm originally from Chicago. And one of our favorite things to do over the summer is to go back home to Chicago and spend a significant amount of time there. But this summer that hasn't been possible. And being that my parents are a little bit older, there's all this, back and forth about, is it safe for them to come? And should we be visiting them? Should we be having them here? And then my husband's family also wanted to come because who wants to miss their grandchild's birthday and everything? So we were just so unsure about having everyone here. And so I think that's been something that's been challenging for us. But that's a favorite summer pastime that we're not really able to do this summer. So with that being said, how about you, Eric?
I don't know. I talked a little bit about earlier that usually our summers are fairly booked with the same kind of things that you talked about, Gina. We've had to be really careful about how we see people and the method by which we connect with others. And, there's some special circumstances with folks that have kept us distancing maybe more carefully than we needed to or should. But one of my favorite things to do in the summer is to just sit outside. And we're in Western Pennsylvania, so I mean we get a solid 2.5 months of decent weather for like sitting outside. And my wife and I are perfectly comfortable sitting outside with a cup of coffee, moving from sun to shade and from shade to sun and then back again. And it sounds crazy, but we do this kind of musical chairs thing where I'm going to sit in the sun till I get too hot, and then I'm going to sit in the shade till I get too cool, and then we're going to move back and continue the conversation as we do so. And then, the kids play outside and or run in and out or do whatever they do, and we're kind of just there. And we get a couple hours of that a day, and I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty contented with that. It gives me a chance to breathe and just be out. So I've learned to appreciate that a lot more and recognize that it has a really positive impact on my day-to-day. So it's something we've been making sure that we schedule in regardless of what we have going on. What about you, Jen?
Well, same here. I live in a place where the warmth and the sun are rarities. So when we have it for our, I'm going to exaggerate, our 2 days a year, I want to be a part of it. And I am out there as much as I can. So yes to that. And I'm, swimming in the bummer boat with not being able to travel. And I'm swimming in the bummer boat. Wow. I'm paddling in the bummer boat. It's not great. Yeah. Sorry, y'all. Long week. I learned last summer, I took my mom to Europe for her 70th birthday last year. And I learned that I could completely disconnect from my work for 2 full weeks. It was actually 17 days that I did not check email or do work. And that is the first time through my doctoral program and my, at that point, 5 years at Marquette, where I hadn't done that. So 8 years. And I found myself fantasizing about doing something like that again this summer. And maybe I'm going to figure it out. I mean, obviously Europe's not going to be involved. However, that doesn't mean that I can't figure out how to do that right here in Milwaukee. So I'm trying to figure that out, but I haven't figured it out yet. As I'm swimming in my boat or, I don't know, backstroking in my bathtub. I have to turn this over to somebody else that's going downhill. Who's next? Elliott. Elliott's next.
I love the image of a bummer boat. That's a great image, bummer boat. And it's alliterative. So
Swimming in the bummer boat.
Well, yeah, my bummer boat is about family. And, my mom is in assisted living and I can't go see her face to face. We can have distanced visits. She'll be on a porch and, but the bigger part of that is my larger family. We do a reunion. Well, we every summer, and we're not able to do one this summer because I'm the youngest in the family of origin, so all my cousins are in their 60s and 70s, and mom's close. She's 89, and I'm really bummed. I'm very sad about that, and it's like, but it's, I'm grateful everyone's healthy. And, it's like we have to figure out, a way to go forward with FaceTime and distanced visits. But my family is a load of fun, and I'm just going to miss having that day together. And we have a family farm in Salem, Ohio. My cousin John lives on it still. And my great aunt and uncle raised enough food on that to run a small restaurant in Salem in the early to mid 20th century. So that's a lot of attachment for all of us. And I was talking to Mom today, and she's just very sad that we're not going to be able to go out to the farm this summer, but it's just, it is what it is. And we're trying to create new ways to stay connected, but it's not quite the same, and that's my bummer boat, so to speak. Stephanie, how about you?
Yeah, well, in the summer, I just enjoy running with the dog. Pretty simple, taking a walk with Mike, my husband. And also, one thing I do actually enjoy the most is there was an addition put on our home, and so above it, it's flat roof. So it's just a flat space that needed a railing around it. So that is one of my favorite places to go in the summer and listen to audiobooks or podcasts or whatever, just lay out. That's how I spent a lot of time studying for comps last year. So just kind of that those activities have not been infringed upon by COVID in any way. But other things have, but those are the favorite things to do. So what about you, Marty? How about you?
Well, for me, what's been impacted has been biking. I do not have the physique of a biker, but I enjoy going out on the bike trails. And unfortunately, I'm a good weather biker. So I haven't been able to do it with work, being real busy since stay at home. And then the times that I get free, the weather's not cooperating or work is not cooperating. So it's biking that I miss the most. That's been impacted by this. And it's also, I think, my schedule that's been impacted by COVID so much. However, as I was thinking about this morning, I got a phone call from my daughter, who's her husband and her in-laws are going to do a bike trip on Thursday. So I've been invited to join that. So I'm looking forward to, I've cleared my schedule for Thursday, and I'm looking forward to getting out on the bike trails again.
Can I chime in, Marty?
Sure.
I just want to say what you're talking about sounds normal to me, and it sounds like a bike ride. I love bike rides. Cycling, I'm terrified by. I see these people in these outfits. They look more serious than Scientologists on Ritalin. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm just like, no, bike rides are great. So I don't think, it's not about physique. I'm all about what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's just, it feels good. I mean, it is a feel good experience for me to do that. And I used to bike a lot when I was a kid. I grew up in Chicago and didn't, have an automobile when I was a teenager. So I did a lot of stuff on bikes. And so it brings me back to that point too. So thanks for that. That wraps all of our questions for tonight, but we do have a final shot question. And I thought of the question and then I kind of backtracked into this other idea. The question simply was, describe yourself in 3 words. That's it. Nothing more. And then I realized that there is this app called what3words.com. It is an app that has geotagged each 3-meter space on the planet. and it tags it by using 3 words. So my 3 words were witty, provocative, caring. And if you put witty, provocative, caring in what 3 words, I wind up being somewhere in the woods outside of Lanes Corner, Virginia. That's where those 3 words are geomapped. A little side thing, if you want to go to my favorite place in the world, go to Breathed Belonged Armrest. And that will take you to a little cafe in Istanbul. So you can play with this if you wish to play with it. Find your favorite place or look at some of these places and then use the street version to kind of drop yourself right down in that location. So, Eric, what's your 3 words?
So I went with, it's really cheesy because I know it's something that's over top of somebody's bathtub right now, stenciled letters. I went with smile, laugh, and love. Right. So those are 3 things that I felt like I want for myself, and also would stencil above my bathtub. And it puts me somewhere in Sweden, and just looks like the kind of middle of nowhere. But also Kelly's Creek, West Virginia is where I spent my a lot of my summers. And if anybody knows anything about West Virginia, my family owns a holler. What's called a holler. They own essentially a hillside where all of my uncles, great uncles, aunts, and everybody lives. And we used to run up and down the hills. And being kind of a city kid, I have really fond memories of there, and stayed a lot with my great grandmother there. And that one is curable, shallow, icon are the 3 words for that one. So it's pretty interesting. I think it's really neat to be able to look these places up just based on 3 words we could share with each other and see these places. So it's really, really cool. So I think after me, Jen, yours.
Yeah, this is legit badass. Like when I looked at my apartment and couches is in it, and I was like, that's awesome because I have a couch in my apartment. But anyway, I digress. What a surprise. The 3 words that I put in were curious, catalyst, and empathy. And I ended up in Inner Mongolia.
Well, at least you didn't wind up in the middle of the ocean swimming in a bummer boat.
I have to tell you, I would know where the ocean is better than I could point to where Mongolia is on a map. It took me a second. So over to Elliott.
Yeah, this took me a little while to catch on. I'm not yet I don't intuitively resonate with so many digital technologies. So I finally figured out you can't put commas between your words. You have to put dots, periods. Okay, I got that figured out. And I ended up in Australia, around Adelaide. And the words I chose, and it was a pattern a counselor of mine had helped me make clear about 10 years ago. She says, you're very sincere, but then you put so much energy into things, you get disappointed. And then you use your sense of humor to kind of recover. So I put sincere, disappointed, and funny, and I ended up in Australia, down under. Oi. So it was fun though. I never heard of this until Marty had put it up, and I was like, okay, well let's check it out and see what we got. How about you, Stephanie?
I believe I did happen to end up in a bummer boat in the middle of the ocean. The words I had were intuitive, creative, and relentless. And so it got me just kind of treading water, trying to keep my head above the waves. Nowhere too interesting. I was disappointed. But I think this is a really cool app, and everyone should kind of give it a try.
Did it tell you what ocean, Stephanie?
It probably did. I just saw a lot of blue, and then everything was happening really fast.
That sounds about right.
Okay. There you go. It's a perfect place for the bummer boat. All right.
Yes, thank you. So I first did it backwards. So I started with my favorite place. And I love the words that it brought up. So headmaster squeaked frightens. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And then I worked my way backwards and I put in the words for me and I put driven, calm, and genuine. And that actually ended up in Pennsylvania, northern Pennsylvania.
So that takes care of the show for tonight. And hopefully folks will identify what their favorite 3 words are to describe themselves and see where they will wind up on the planet as a result of it. I want to thank the squad for tonight. Eric, Jen, Elliott, Stephanie, and Gina. Look for some of these characters on their podcasts on the podtalk.network. Our theme music is from Menage a Quad, Real Swing Shet. That's it for the episode of Circular Firing Squad. Ready, fire, aim.